Good Thursday afternoon to you, family. My name is Chris. You are watching the video edition of Encouraging Your Spirit, the podcast. And I hope you're having a fantastic day. I guess we can call these car chats things I'm thinking, because in addition to hosting a podcast and being a creator of it, I'm also an information science doctoral student, and I believe every part of my life can be encouraging, or at least I like it to be. And sometimes I just be thinking and wondering, is it just me that has these thoughts? So in our car chats for today, something that I am thinking about is, what's the value of human and Black life? I mean, really, what is the value of human and Black life? How this came up for me today is one of the classes that I'm taking this semester is data ethics. It's a fascinating class because you learn about ethical issues as it relates to data, as it relates to information. You have the research theories, historical studies and things that people have talked about for years, and then how does it relate now when we look at the internet, when we look at people and information society, or when we look at the fact of, sometimes what about when you have a breach at Target, or what about when you have like an algorithm that decides on people's sentencing? Is that fair? Does that is it equal? Is it just? What happens in those particular cases? Or when we look at historical issues, like for example, Tuskegee syphilis experiment, and what about information consent, or the lack of it, or when there wasn't a law for information consent, and how does that not only relate then, but how does that relate today? And today we were debating, the class assignment was debating Henrietta Lack. And for those of you that never know or didn't know about the immortal life of Henrietta Lack was a Black woman in the 50s. She had cervical cancer. She went to a doctor, Johns Hopkins Institute Hospital, in the 50s. They tested her for syphilis, and then they also did a biopsy. They did not ask for her consent to send it anywhere to study it, but they sent it without her knowledge of that. She died in, I want to say it was October of 1951. And the research shows that when she died, and they, her abdomen was black from the radium that she was, I guess, being treated for cancer. She had these small tumors. Now, also at the same, and so many other things. Take a look at. There's a book on it. There's also a lot of research that talks about, her life. But those are some of the highlights that we were talking about today. And the issue that comes up is that at the time of her, having, cervical cancer, there was a doctor that was studying cells and the growth of cells. And they discovered that Henrietta Lack's cells would grow outside of her body. The reason that they grew outside of her body was because she had was a human papillomavirus, HPV, at the time. Now her cells have benefited many. They've used her cells in the study of polio. They've used her cells for cancer. For so many different research research groups have used her cells. They decided, though, at the time of the study, that they would just call her cells HeLa, HeLa, and they would not disclose her identity. It was only later that it came out. And like I said, information consent was not a law in the 50s. It also makes you think about, like I said, the value of Black life too, because even if there had been a law, would it have been applicable to Black people at that time? I just find that uncertain on that. Just not being shady or malice, just keeping it 100. Just things you think about. And so we're having this debating class. I was on the side, for against, because I understand, the benefit of science, the fact that people use studies to help other people improve therapies. I mean, think about it. That's what people do today. When you think about, like, right now on my campus, we have a medical school. It's been in existence for 2 years. But even without that, without, the university experience, we all understand, or at least are aware of the fact that, researchers, scientists, doctors, they're definitely interested in the idea thematically that, you learn from, diseases, that you learn how to treat people better, that you improve, patient health, improve life, and the different ways that people go about trying to study that. That's the benefit supposedly of progress, that it will help someone else's life. I know that in theory, but what does it mean when it's your life? Or it's in the context of Henrietta's life, or when you think about, you're sitting in a class with future information scholars or future people that are taking this as elective, who knows what their major is. So there's people that are going for their bachelor's degree, their master's and doctoral students like myself, and you're listening to them debate ethics of a real case, and while you're calling this woman the mother of science, what does her life mean, in the sense of, was her family ever compensated? What level of compensation would ever be enough? And it's just, and I guess I bring that up today because I did not realize the emotional labor that it feels to be involved in these discussions, to think about it. And I guess maybe it would be one thing if you could compartmentalize your life and say, well, this happened in the 50s and things, have changed. But then you're sitting there going, but have they though? And I'm not trying to be a pessimist. I'm not trying to be a cynic, but you just sit and wonder, the mother of medicine, cells that were used because there was a statement that said 10 million lives were saved. 10 million lives were saved by the study of her cells. Or someone in the class also talked about how, she was, a healer for so many people, but at what cost? And I guess for me, I sit up and think about, how Black women or Black people's lives are often used in order to save other people. But at what cost? And while we can say maybe it's beneficial, in the sense of, the fact that they're saying all of these different studies, all of these different things that, we now have treatments, or we now have vaccines, and we now have different, things for. But what does it really mean in the greater context? And I was just like, I don't know, what it means in the greater context. But, in my mind, I think metaphorically, it's like Black people or Black life is engulfed in flames. And while everybody will see it, or some people will see the flames and go, oh, it's burning, it's on fire. No one will offer aid. No one will put the fire out, or no one will say, you know what, maybe we shouldn't set people on fire in order to learn whatever it is we're trying to learn, know what it is whatever we're trying to know. Maybe that's metaphorical, or maybe I'm thinking too hard, but I was just thinking about that today, because it almost feels insulting to hear people say she's such a healer. How many lives do we have to save all the time? I just wonder in these student doctoral journals, journeys, and I guess this is a journal of my thoughts. I might delete it later, but that's what I was thinking as I go to my office to print. Peace. Hope y'all have a great day. Thanks for listening to the Random Thoughts of Chris. Bye.